Hey students, welcome to the next screencast. Glad you can make it. Anyways, you know how this goes. I present to you a real world problem, show you how to solve it, then present to you a very similar one in which you have to explain how you would solve it. Alright, here we go. This one has to do with money, something that is definitely going to affect us at one point in our lives throughout our life. You have quarters and nickels saved in a piggy bank. There is a total of $3.45 in quarters and nickels, and there are 9 more nickels than quarters. We have to figure out how many quarters and how many nickels you have. Well, of course, we can do a bunch of guess and check work, which might take a few moments, but you know what? I want us to solve this using algebra. Now, don't get me wrong. Doing guess and check work, well, if I have this many quarters and this many dimes, this many quarters, this many dimes, back and forth, will eventually get you the answer. I am not saying that it won't. But I want us to try a different approach because it's always good to think outside the box. How could we also solve this algebraically? Now, of course, algebra means you have some sort of variable. Ideally, you have just one variable. Now, this question you might think, oh, I need two variables, one for quarters and one for nickels. Not necessarily true. Not at all. In fact, I want to show you how, using only one variable, which we will call Q, which stands for quarters, we're able to figure it out based on the information they gave us. So let's do it. You have 9 more nickels than quarters. That's a very, 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 very helpful hint. Notice that it says that we don't know how many specific quarters we have. We just know we have 9 more nickels than quarters. Well, if Q represents the number of quarters we have, then Q plus 9 would represent the number of nickels we have. In other words, the number of quarters plus 9 would represent 9 more quarters than nickels. And of course, Q, we don't know how many quarters we have, so we'll just call that Q. And we know we're going to add the number of quarters to the number of nickels, so we definitely need a plus sign somewhere in there. And we know this entire value is going to equal, as it says right here, $3.45. So let's put that at the end. Now we're not done though, because keep in mind we're not just talking about the number of quarters and the number of nickels, we also have to know that quarters and nickels have actual values, which we already know. A quarter is worth 25 cents and a nickel's worth 5, so therefore we have to take the number of quarters, which we called Q, and we have to multiply that by the value of just one quarter, which is 25 cents, which, keep in mind, you would not use 25, you would use 0.25, representing 25 cents. If you use just the number 25, you're talking about a quarter is worth $25, which, unfortunately, is not true. Which makes sense for this part right here, because think about it. If we had just one quarter, well then that's 1 times 25 cents. If we had 2 quarters, that's 2 times 25 cents. If we had 3 quarters, that's 3 times 25 cents. If we have some unknown Q number of quarters, that's Q times 25 cents. So that represents that. Now for the number of nickels, we know a nickel is worth 5 cents. Well, let's put parentheses around this. Q plus 9 represents the number of nickels. Remember, Q plus 9, that entire expression, which is why I put in parentheses, the entire expression represents the number of nickels we have. And just like we did over here, we multiplied the number of quarters by 0.25. We're going to multiply the number of nickels not by 0.25, but by 0.05. And keep in mind, do not use 0.5. That would represent 50 cents. You want 0.05, which represents a nickel. So, here's our equation set up beautifully. 0.25 times Q plus 0.05 multiplied by the entire quantity of Q plus 9. And that whole thing should equal $3.45. Our setup is complete and we are able to solve. I'll bet from last year you're kind of remembering what we would do when a number, doesn't matter what number, is on the outside of the parentheses as we have right here with the nickels. In other words, 0.25 needs to get distributed to Q, and 0.25 needs to get distributed to 9. You remember the distributive property means you multiply, so let's do just that. 0.05 times Q is 0.05 Q, not so bad there, and 0.05 times 9 is, of course, 45 cents. Positive 45 cents, which makes sense. If you have 9 nickels, you have 45 cents. And then the number of quarters, we don't need to distribute anything there because it's just 0.25 times Q, which is still just 0.25 Q, plus 0.05 Q plus 0.45 should again equal $3.45. And we are on our way. Let's combine like terms. In other words, terms that have the same exact variable, 0.25q plus 0.05q. In other words, 25 cents plus a nickel is 0.30q. Now keep in mind, you could just write 0.3q. That's also correct. Plus 0.45 is equal to $3.45. And now we remember solving two-step linear equations because that's what we have right here. We have to isolate q, and in order to do that, we simply have to get rid of the 0.45 and then get rid of the 0.3 in front of the q. Well, which one do we do first? The 0.45, that's right. We subtract 0.45 from both sides, which, very easy math to do, especially for this situation here. In other words, $3.45 minus your 45 cents is just $3. And again, 3.00, I wrote that just because we're working with money, just so we know what we're working with. But if you just write 3, of course, that's the same thing, as you know. Now, to get rid of this 0.30 right here, keep in mind this is 0.30q, and 0.30q means 0.30 times q, and so therefore the opposite of that would be to divide both sides by 0.30. And now what we're really asking ourselves is the following question. What's 3 divided by 0.3, really? Right over here, right over here. In other words, how many times can you fit 30 cents into $3? In other words, 3 divided by 0.3 is, of course, the simple digit of 1 and 0. In other words, 10. You have 10 quarters. All right, so we know we have 10 quarters. But how many nickels do we have? So if we have 10 quarters, well, then how many nickels do we have? Oh, we have to do so much more math to figure that out. Absolutely not. Look back at the original equation. Let's just do some simple math. There are 9 more nickels than quarters. 9 more nickels than quarters. We established that right from the start. And knowing we have 10 quarters, well, 9 more nickels than that, of course, would be 19. So we have 19 nickels. All right, let's check our math, just to be on the safe side. We know the total had to be $3.45 as evidenced right here. If I have 10 quarters and 19 nickels, does that add up to $3.45? Absolutely, because look, if you have 10 quarters, that's 10 times 0.25, which is how much money? That's right, $2.50. And if you have 19 nickels, okay, so that's 19 times 0.05. And if you have 19 nickels, how much cash do you have? Yeah, that's right. Only 95 cents, right? Because if we had 20, you'd have $1. Well, what is $2.50 plus 95 cents? You guessed it, $3.45. So we got the answer right. 10 quarters, 19 nickels. We know for a fact is the answer. Nice job. Here is your problem that is very similar. A person has quarters and dimes this time, not quarters and nickels, quarters and dimes. Now this one's very, very similar. Just keep in mind now dimes have been changed, or nickels have been changed to dimes. A person has quarters and dimes that total $2.80. The number of dimes is 7 more than the number of quarters. How many of each coin does the person have? And by each coin, of course, we mean quarters and dimes, not pennies or nickels in this case. Not even those silver dollars or those old-fashioned Sacagawea dollars that came out a couple years ago that nobody used and never caught on. Those are kind of weird, but now they're collector's items, I think. Anyways, this one's for you, folks. A person has quarters and dimes, $2.80. Your goal is to explain to me, using algebra, set up an equation very similar to what you just saw, to solve how many quarters and dimes that you have. And you notice at the end of what I just did, I checked my work really, really quickly to make sure that I had $3.45. I would like you to do the same thing. So set up the equation, solve it, and then quickly check your work. It shouldn't take you any more than a couple more moments of your time. Take care, everyone. Hope you do well in this, and let me know if you have any questions.